Good afternoon, oily friends. This is a live video in our group, but I will be uploading this to YouTube for the public, so we are going to keep this general for lots of people to use. So I'll give everybody a few minutes to come on in, and you can feel free to admire my new shelf behind me that my friends made for me so that my oils would have a home, a permanent little home. So these are my oils, or some of them. I didn't actually pay for them all, so I got about more than half of them for free. So I'm not hoarding anything or anything like that, but yeah. So thank you, Andrea. Okay, so I want to get into this because I'm going to be uploading it as a YouTube video. So I'm just going to get the information out there, and it's going to be available for a replay anytime. So I just want to welcome the new members on our team and hopefully give you some information that will help you in this journey. Some of you may know my name is Sarah Jo Poff. I am a natural health practitioner and the founder of Healthy Families for God. And the one thing that I've learned over time through all my education is that there's a lot to know and we'll never know it all. And so we can take advantage of the things that can help us. The more I get into this, the more I've practiced over the years, the more I realize that I don't know a lot. And there is so much to know, and it can be overwhelming. And so my goal is to help people become their own experts at taking care of their health. And so today I'm going to share with you a device that I have used and researched and used and researched and used and researched until I feel comfortable telling you guys about it, and I am very excited about it, and I like to tell people about it a lot because it is something that I have found to be smarter than me and offer me information that I really need. So today I am going to be talking about the iTOVi device. So this is the box. This is the actual device. And it's just really small. It has little things for lights, for power, and these little prongs. The iTOVi device basically uses technology that's similar to things like, you know, your FitBits and things like that. So sometimes when people learn about these, they think it's really kooky, but nobody thinks these are kooky. So it's really just simple. It's a little bit more in-depth, which I love, and I'll tell you why and how that works. The iTOVi uses bioimpedance, and basically what happens is when you run a scan on somebody, these metal prongs are going to be touching skin, and they can touch skin anywhere. As long as it's skin, it's making contact with the skin, and that includes animals as well. So as long as there's a place on an animal where they can, where skin can be exposed, you can use this device on them as well. These, when it runs a scan, it uses about 3 volts, so that's less than a 9-volt battery. So it's not like we're licking our tongue and sticking a 9-volt battery on it or something. It's just 3 volts. You don't even feel it really. It just buzzes, just from it vibrating, the machine itself, but it doesn't shock or anything. And then it usually runs for about a minute, and I'll show you how it works. But in general, what it's doing is it's taking, so this is not put out by Young Living or any of the oil companies or supplement companies. This is a completely separate company. This company purchased all of the products from various companies, and it recorded those products' frequencies and put them basically in this device. And those frequencies run through the person who's testing through their body. And then it senses which of those products, the frequencies, are the body is responding to the most or the best. And so those are the products that it recommends for the person. Now, the whole frequency thing sounded weird to me when I first started. It kind of sounded new age. So I had to do some digging into it and find out what this whole frequency thing was really about. So there's a lot of really good information about it if you dig into the scientific things about frequency. I'm just going to give you a little bit of information really quick. Frequency is just simple. It's a scientific term. It's defined as a measurable rate of electrical energy that is constant between any 2 points. When there is frequency, there is electromagnetic potential. We are constantly influenced by electromagnetic energy all around us all of the time. These frequencies influence our well-being. Everything has an electrical frequency, and the frequencies are measured in megahertz. So they're very measurable. It's just something that can be measured and given amounts, definable amounts. So there have been a lot of studies and research done on different things that affect a person's frequency. The normal range of the human body for frequency is around 62 to 68 megahertz. And so as they were researching megahertz, frequency in megahertz, they were researching how things affect the human's frequency. And so what they found was, for instance, if a human being holds a cup of coffee, it makes their megahertz go down by about 3 megahertz or so. Oh, sometimes it's more than that. So 3 to 5 or something like that in general, and it depends on the person. It takes 3 seconds for the megahertz to go down, or for the frequency to go down, holding that cup of coffee. If a person takes a sip of that coffee, it goes down around another 6 megahertz within 3 seconds. And if no coffee, if you remove the coffee and you don't do anything else, it can take 3 days for that person's frequency to return to the normal range, 62 to 68 megahertz. If a person, removes the coffee and they, for instance, breathe in an essential oil that has a high frequency, it will take 21 seconds for their frequency to go up. So it's obviously constantly changing. Our body is constantly changing. Our frequency is affected by our health at that current moment. It's affected by the emotional energy of the people around us. I mean, when you've been around people who are just kind of like about everything in life and they're just negative, you can feel that negative energy bringing you down. And when you're in a room with people who are excited and they're happy and they're positive, you feel that too. So that's how frequency affects our lives. And so basically, this iTOVi device is just measuring frequency. It measures the frequency of the products, and it's matching it up with the frequencies in your body. So what happens is, I'm going to do a scan real quick. And so as long as these are touching skin, you can do it anywhere. Sometimes what we'll do with babies is we'll tuck it in like an elastic sleeve or pants or something to keep it on them, and then you're not holding it. You don't necessarily want to be touching it yourself, and so then they can just crawl around for a minute or whatever, and they will be being scanned. So what we generally do is have people hold it in the palm of their hand and just hold it tight, and it's not going to be squeezed or anything. When you get an iTOVi device, you just download the app on your smartphone, and then it's going to, I forgot, you've got to have your Bluetooth settings on. I forgot to do that. So, let me do that real quick. And my fingers aren't working for some reason. There we go. All right, so, and then you either enter in a new client or an existing, choose from the existing clients. There are settings that you can, so you have the options of changing the settings. So you can choose the number of products that you want the scan to come up with. Some people like to do, or some people find that 10, which is the maximum amount that you can do, is overwhelming. And so they will choose 3, 5, or 7. I have a lot of products, so I just do 10, and I use whatever I can on there. But I'm going to do, let me see here, I'll do 5 today, just because that's a little bit less overwhelming. And I like to do 5, sometimes 7 with people who are newer, and they maybe don't have as many products. We like to just keep it simplified. People who aren't using a lot of natural things in their daily regimen. So then we're going to go and choose me in the clients list, and it stores people in there automatically and their previous scans, so you can go back and look and see what the last scan said. And so it's going to bring me to the screen where it's going to let me look at my previous scans or do a new scan. And so then I select categories. I can select essential oils, weight management, other products, and that would mostly be like supplements and things like that. And then starter kit products. And the starter kit products is a nice one to choose for people who are just getting started and they only have the starter kit. Sometimes I don't necessarily like to confine it to that personally, because sometimes their body just really needs maybe one or two other things that would be really, really beneficial for them. So I click on all, the box with all, and then it checks all of them for me. And then I'm going to put start scan. So then when it starts, it buzzes and a screen comes up.
The tracker sends electrical frequencies
and this gives it information about what's going on. And so new people can watch that. And then you'll see that the device is just lighting up to show that it's going. And sometimes with little kids, we ask them to watch the lights and keep watching them until they stop. And then when the lights stop, we tell them they can put it down. So it's showing the progress bar and how much is left in the scan, and it's going through the video that it shows that my kids basically memorize at this point. It just talks about how bioimpedance works and that it's safe for everybody. It doesn't matter if you have devices in your body. It doesn't interfere with any of those things, and how your scan results can be affected by diet and stress and things like that. So then when the bar gets to the end, the device is going to buzz, and then it's going to pull up the products. And so what we do is we look at the chart, and it says that there are 101 unresolved biopoints. And so what we like to do is look at the one that has the biggest proportion of those unresolved points, and that's obviously the most important one to take care of. And so for me, I've got an essential oil blend called Egyptian Gold. That's my first one. And so what we would do is we would look through these, and we would obviously want to focus on the ones at the top the most, because those are the ones that our body responded to the best, basically that our body says we need the most. And then we just kind of go through the list and what we may have. And so there's lots of different ways that people handle this. If they don't have the products, they buy them, or they say, what is similar to that I have that I can use? And so what we recommend doing is taking the results of this and digging into your reference materials that you have on hand, whether it's an app or a book or something like that, and then looking at what it's saying that maybe your body is needing those things for, and just focusing on supporting that area of health. It does give the option to share this report, so then it lets you email or text the results to somebody. So if you're running a scan for somebody else, you can just automatically send them the results of their scan, and they can dig into it at home with their own reference materials and things like that. And they can have it ready for when they are putting in their order and needing to know what to buy. And so one thing that I have seen from this, and the reason that I share it often, is because there have been many, many times where in my knowledge, I thought I knew what might be a good product for somebody to use based on a situation that they're in, or an area of their health that they need supported. So for instance, if somebody is coming to me and they're saying, they've got a need for thyroid support, I might say, okay, let me look at your labs, and then say, okay, you clearly need selenium and you need some iodine and things like that to support your thyroid health. And if we run a scan on them, sometimes what I find is that those kind of products may come up, but what I've noticed is that sometimes products that go deeper in the body systems will come up. So what I mean by that is all of our hormones, our thyroid hormones, our sex hormones, the whole entire process starts in the little glands in our brains. We've got the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, and if those things aren't supported or are needing some help, it'll affect the way that our entire body starts that whole process of creating those hormones. And so what I find is sometimes that because our sense of smell is connected to that part of our brain, and it can support everything from the very beginning with the right things, it will often go back that far. So it might bring up some essential oils that are high in constituents that will penetrate that part of the brain and really activate that area of the brain. What I also find is sometimes if there's something going on, maybe one of my kids needs some immune support, and I'm thinking, okay, I ran a scan, for instance, one time, and I was using those products, and I thought, I just feel like maybe their system needs some more support, and it's not getting it from these products. So I ran a scan and came up, and I could really see that made sense. And I kind of felt like, I didn't even really think of those. So I used those, and within hours, I saw a difference. And that's not the first time that's happened. It's happened dozens and dozens of times since I've had this device. And so what I'm finding is that it's really pinpointing exactly which ones our body needs in each particular situation, whatever our health needs are for that day or that week. Based on what we're going through emotionally and physically and things like that, it tends to really pick up on those. And when you look at it, when you're entering a new client in, so when you enter a new client in, and I don't know if it'll let you see it, maybe not. So it has an option. So you put in their first name, their last name, their email, and their gender. Everything else is optional, like birth date, weight, and height. I never enter those things in. I just do their name, their email, and their gender. And what I found is that it's also very, it works to know which part of a cycle a woman is at. So for instance, I did a scan the first day of my cycle, and a very specific hormone product came up. And I did a scan 3 days later, so towards the end of my cycle, and that product came up again, but down further on the list. I didn't need it as much. And then I did it a few days later, and that product wasn't on there anymore. And so I've done that a few times just to really kind of test it and see if it really does. And I never enter in when I'm on my a certain part of my cycle, anything about that. And it just never fails. It keeps coming up. Sometimes it'll be a little bit of a different hormone product at that point of the cycle, but it always picks up on that. That part creeped me out a little bit, but I realized that there is so much in our body that has to do with the frequency and things like that we can really utilize this. So I've had a lot of times where in these scans, I wouldn't have even thought to recommend those things. And most people, what they find is when they do a scan, whether they understand the results or not, if they just use the things that it says or as many of the things that they have on hand and they use them, they notice a difference significantly and quickly. Much more so than if they were just using things that kind of everybody said works for supporting that area of health or whatever. And so I think that because we obviously have a huge selection of plants to support our body and our health, we can really take full advantage of that if we want by using this device. And so when somebody messages me and they say, what oil should I use for this area of health? I can give them the researched answer. I can give them what the research shows might work for that. But every body is different. And so it might work and it might not. And it's not because the product doesn't work. It's because every body is different. And so the best way I've found to really assess what your body needs for any particular instance is to have this device. And most people think, well, this device is probably pretty expensive. It's actually really cheap. So this device is $10. I know. It's $10. And then in order to subscribe to the service that you use to do scans, it's basically $39.99 a month. There are ways you can get that down by sharing it with other people, and if they go ahead and get their device, then you can knock your bill down, and you can knock it down to $10 a month with 5 referrals, I think it is. And so that really helps. So for $10 a month, $10 for this one-time fee, and then $10 a month if you refer people or whatever, you can get customized results for you, every single person in your family, what their needs are. And I like to run a scan generally once a week for the oils. And then for supplements, we tend to do those more like 2, 3, 4 weeks apart, just to give our bodies time to get what we need from those supplements and see if we need them still or something else. And so you saw from my scan that there weren't any supplements that came up, and that happens sometimes when you choose all of the products. Sometimes it's just really finding that just the oils that are matching up with your body's needs at that time. And sometimes supplements do come up. Sometimes Ningxia Red comes up. Sometimes a vitamin supplement will come up. So it just really depends on the person's need at that time. Let me think. I'm trying to think of some common questions we've had on this. So what we will do is just basically look at the results, assess if we should use them topically, internally, or aromatically, or all of them. And sometimes that just depends on the oil. If there's an oil blend, for instance, let me see here. So if there's an oil blend called Believe, and that comes up, that's usually, we can assume that it's for emotional support, and so we'll want to use that aromatically. And so we can diffuse it, or we can put it in a diffuser necklace, or we can apply it, if it's not a photosensitive oil, we can apply it to our neck where we can breathe it in. If it's, really one for our emotional support or something that we need for our brain, we can apply it to the brain stem on the back of our neck, and we'll still smell it there. If it's an essential oil like lemon, we can assume that it would be either, it could be all three of the uses. It can be internal, it can be aromatic, and it can be topical. Now, topical with citrus ones, we generally want to stay away from areas of skin that will be exposed to the sun because those are photosensitive. And so basically, you get the scan results, you look at what it says, and it does provide a little bit of information when it pulls up your scan on each oil. So you can click on each oil, and then it'll give you a little bit more information, just a little bit. So what I prefer to do is look it up in my reference materials and just dig into what it says maybe I need it for, and then that helps me decide how to use it. Let me just look at questions here. Generally, Charlene, that's a good question. So Charlene's asking, if you're taking something, you do a scan, and that item no longer comes up on the scan, does that mean you don't need it anymore? It can, and what I find is there are some things that I'm personally just going to keep taking because I know that my body needs them, and so there are some things I just take every day. There are some things that maybe don't need to be taken every day for long term. As soon as those don't come up, maybe you stop taking those. For instance, I have a child, and sometimes it's the opposite. So I have a child that tends to be very high energy and very hard to fall asleep at night. He is getting mineral essence for magnesium and other trace minerals. And I had run a scan on him recently, and that came up top of the list. And I know he needs it, and here I'm thinking, but he's taking it. And it turns out he wasn't. So he was not taking it every night like he was supposed to be. But then we did have another time where he was taking it, and it came up, and so we just assumed that meant that he needed more. So we did increase his dosage of it, and he stayed consistent with it, and then it didn't come up on the next scan. So sometimes it can bring up products that you're already using, and that might just mean that you need more of it to increase your dosage, depending on what that product is and stuff like that. So it really depends. Like one of them on mine, it keeps coming up. And I'll use it for a couple of weeks, and I'll stop using it, and then it just keeps coming up. And I know I have a need for that. My body has shown me over years that I have a need for that. So that's my bad for not staying consistent with it. So it's kind of a little accountability partner there too. But, everybody, how they determine the results and interpret them is really up to them. I just highly recommend having reference materials to turn to with your results. And so as much as I love to help people and love to offer what I know, some of what I know is based on experience and some of it is just based on research. In naturopathy studies, we study all the different modalities basically. So there's nutrition, nutritional therapy, there's herbology, there's herbalism, we study iridology, we study nutritional response testing, we study aromatherapy, and we study just so many different modalities. And like if you have somebody who works with homeopathic therapy, they might just specialize in just that. And if you work with somebody who's a certified herbalist, they are just really specialized in that. But with naturopathy, we're trained to look at everything and kind of just become familiar with everything. And so in using a bunch of different things, I have found that nutritional therapy and essential oils really seem to be the most effective from my experience, and so I've kind of narrowed in on those. But the problem is, like I said, every body is different, and so even with something like niacin therapy, which is a B vitamin, it works incredibly well for some people, and other people who I really think it should work for based on what they're telling me, it doesn't seem to work for. And so it's the same with essential oils. So we might find something just doesn't work like people say it works, and that's because everybody's different. So it really simplifies things to just have this device and just to be able to say, you know what, I woke up today and I clearly need some emotional support, or I woke up today and I need some hormonal support. And you can just run your scan and see what it's telling your body. And sometimes I've had ones come up there that I thought smelled horrible, or I didn't really know much about them, and I didn't understand how they work or what they're for, and I just used them anyway, and I'm always blown away by how the difference that it makes and how quickly it affects our health by using the ones that match up with our body's needs at that time with this device. So I just encourage everybody to give it a try. I mean, you can just buy the device for $10. If it doesn't work or it's quirky or something, the company has excellent customer service. And so then if you just say, I want my service turned on for this month and I'm going to run a bunch of scans, and then you can turn it off for a couple of months so you're not paying every month if that's not in your budget, and then you can turn it on again. There's no commitment or obligation or anything like that, which I love with this company. And that was kind of what I originally started it with, but I ended up never turning it off because I found it so incredibly valuable. So as much as I want to know everything and be able to help everybody with everything, this is smarter than me. The technology's there, and I think we should just take advantage of it. So if it's in your budget to spend $10 on this, and then maybe pay $40 for a month to check it out, I highly encourage you to do so. If you decide, you just don't want to have it on, you can just call and have them turn it off. You can offer scans to other people, and you're welcome to charge for them to help cover the cost of your monthly fee for having the service. It's up to you however you do it. But I know that you're going to find it valuable. And so if you're in our Oily Friends group, you've probably seen things come up about scans and you're thinking, what is this all about? That's why. You see that those of us who have it have been completely blown away by what it shows. So that's why we recommend it. We can help. We have, I think we're at almost 700 people in my team. And so there's a lot of collaborative wisdom there. So we all have personal experiences where we said, my daughter went through this and we found this oil to help. And sometimes that's super, super great. But again, everybody's different. And so the only way to truly know really what your body or your child's body needs in any situation is two things, I think. Prayer, first and foremost. I really encourage people to just pray and ask God just to give them direction and healing and whatever it is. I didn't say that, but that term's not compliant. But just to pray to God and really ask Him for direction. And then to have a device like this is so incredibly valuable as well. So that's what I encourage people to do. I don't mean to say like, well, I don't know what's going to help you in that situation, but I generally feel like I don't after using this thing because of how many times it's brought things up that I didn't know, I didn't even think of might work, but it really did. So that's why I encourage people to just go first to prayer, go second to your iTOVi device. And then sometimes, it's really good to come to our group if you're on my team and look for the collaborative wisdom and experience from the other people on our team. So I really hope that helps. It's really easy to use. As you can see, you just need a smartphone and you just need to download the app and order the device, and that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any questions, you can let me know. If you are interested in getting one of these, I would appreciate if you'd use a referral link. So if you check with your enroller, they likely have one. And so ask them for their referral link, and then you can help them save money on their bill too. So let us know if you have any questions. Thanks, you guys.